Hey, hey, hey. I'm Therese, and welcome to the very first episode of Tea with Tea. And that's me, Therese. Before we launch into any other episodes, I wanted to take the time to let you guys get to know me a little bit. That way you can kind of know the journey that we'll take together over the course of this podcast. Like I said, I'm Therese. I'm a mom of two, and my youngest is going to make little guest appearances throughout this episode with us. So if you hear any baby noises, that is Xander, my littlest, and his big brother Charlie is not with us today, but you'll meet him on a future episode. I am a Cancer, and, I definitely am someone who believes in, astrology, the occult, mythology, things like that. Like, I always think that those are really cool and they add kind of another layer to our existence. Like, I definitely believe in fairies. Not everyone does, but I don't always believe that they're the cutesy little winged creatures that bestow money for teeth or glitter on things. But that's something we'll talk about another time. I am a feminist. I am very big about women supporting women, the equality of the sexes, closing the pay gap, destroying the patriarchy. And I support if women want to stay home, if women want to work, if women want to have children, if they don't want to have children, if men want to be stay-at-home dads, if, people want to live their lives how they want to live, that is feminism. If you've ever been confused, just know that that is feminism. I am also mixed. I'm mixed race. So representation's always been super important for me throughout my life. And I definitely feel that anytime that we can have a woman or a woman of color or a mixed race person having their voice out there, it helps so much. As a kid growing up, I always felt like I wasn't Asian enough for the Asian kids and I wasn't Black enough for the Black kids. And so I just kind of existed in this limbo of not enough. And that really sucked for me. And then, of course, I love Disney. I'm a huge Disney geek. And really, it was tricky also there, not really seeing myself in any of them. It came close with Pocahontas or Mulan or Jasmine. But all the merch, all the big movies, everything, all the Halloween costumes were all Cinderella and Snow White and Sleeping Beauty and Belle. And I love Belle, but she is a white French woman. So not really, while she is a bookworm, which is definitely a huge part of me, it wasn't like seeing myself in the screen. So I really believe in representation for sure. I am a wife. I've been married for what feels like forever, but really hasn't been all that long. And so, that's one thing that I have friends who are like, well, being married, I just want to get married, as though that'll just solve any and all relationship issues. And no, it won't. Just like some people think, oh, if I have a baby, that'll fix the relationship. For the love of God, do not get a pet. Do not have a child. Do not get married if you think that that will fix everything. It won't fix anything. If anything, it will just bring up way more issues and more problems. So let's just put a pin in that. We'll talk about that another time. But just know, just because I'm married, just because I'm a mom, does not mean I know what I'm doing. Life is a huge learning experience, and we're going to talk it out together. And that's one thing that I have a ton of friends who always call me Mama T, because, they just talk to me about life, and I always try to be super helpful. I'm an ENFP, ESFP. If you've ever taken the Myers-Briggs test, if you haven't, pause this. Go do that. Go do that. That's super important. I really feel like psychology it really helps you to understand people's motivations and how people act and how they will kind of take things as they come, like how they're exposed to the world and how they respond to the stimulus of the world, That's super huge. But anyways, I'm someone who I love to help people. I love to connect with people. I love to, just the storytelling of people's lives. You know, that is really what makes up them and their opinions. You know, it's what they've been through. It's how they've been through it. It's really a mix of their experiences and who they are and where they want to go. I've also been called Mama T because I've had friends who ask me relationship advice, sex advice, self-care advice. So I definitely want to kind of bring that to the table on this podcast as well. We definitely are on social media, so you can tweet me questions or things that you'd like to talk about. We're also on Instagram and on Tumblr. I will make sure to put all of our social media on show notes, but you can definitely find me at T and Turquoise. Spell out the and, so it's TEAAND Turquoise. If you can't spell turquoise, just Google it. But all the links to the main hub Tumblr will be on there as well. I love Tumblr. I feel like it's just like a great aggregation of what people love, without a whole lot of really hullabaloo. You know, it's pretty. If you want a bunch of fandom stuff, like if you only care about Marvel Cinematic Universe, you only have to see that. If you like a bunch of other stuff, you can mix all that in. So I am a fangirl. Like I said, I read a lot. I watch a lot of movies. I do have ships. I have a marina of ships that have never sailed. Like I said, I am, for some people, they're not their moral compass, because Lord knows I'm not qualified for that. But I do help people feel less guilty about sexual ownership. Or, some people are like, oh, I just don't want to talk to most people about this because I'm embarrassed. I have little to no shame. So I have no problem answering all kinds of questions and giving advice. So, if you need to come to Mama T, you know where to find me. Back again with feminism, if you want to have as many partners as you want or as few visitors to the Cat Scratch Club as possible, that is up to you. That is your body. That is your decision. As long as it is consensual and no one gets hurt without prior agreement. I mean, if you guys agree to it ahead of time and you have a safe word, then sky's the limit. But everyone has to agree. And don't let anyone shame you for your choices, because that is none of their business. I do love helping people. My end game for a very long time was opening up a play therapy practice for kids and teens who've been sexually abused and adults with sexual dysfunction. I love to keep that like kind of in the back burner. Like, maybe one day I'll get there, but I just love helping people. I'm really big on self-care and growth. And sometimes some people just need someone to help them see the bigger picture. And I really love being that person. Fun fact, I actually love Disney so much that I have probably been to Disneyland more than I have gone to the movies, like gone to a movie theater and watched a movie. A handful of years of annual passes will really do that for you. And shoot, living in California, it was not that far of a drive to go. So I would go often and I would go with a bunch of friends and it was just a blast. I mean, that's one of the reasons I think that I want to move back, to get an annual pass and just go all the time again. I guess I could also move to Florida and just get an annual pass to Disney World. But at the same time, Walt Disney World it's a whole other animal. And I realized that when I went for the first time was that like Disneyland and California Adventure together is just Disneyland, like 2 parks, Disneyland, boom. And then there's Disney World that's like a handful of parks and a couple water parks and some golf resorts and then a bunch of hotels. And it's very overwhelming very quickly. Okay, so you may be wondering why tea with tea and tea and turquoise. When you have a cup of tea, you're really settling in and getting cozy. And if you have tea or coffee with someone, you're sitting down and you're really taking the time to catch up and just making the most of that moment. And I kind of want these podcasts to be that for us. To be a chance for us to kind of like sit down and catch up together and really just kind of settle in, just hang out and not worry about other things. And why turquoise? Turquoise is a stone that's really big for healing and spirituality and just like an energy flow. It's just a stone that I believe is kind of like a muse for me. It's protective, and it really just helps. It's one of my favorite stones, really. It's harder to explain without really diving in, and we can do a whole episode just on crystals and stones. Again, that's something that I believe in, others may not, and some people feel that things like crystals and stones and tarot is just a bunch of hooey, and I think that that's very much on each individual person. Just like everything in the world means something different to someone else, and I can really only talk about what things are for me. It's the beauty of the interactiveness of the world that we live in today. There's always an opportunity to tell someone what you think and how your opinion's different than theirs. I welcome it. Absolutely. Reach out to me and we'll chitty chat this out. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about whether or not you think I'm right or whether or not I think you're right. Your opinion's your opinion. My opinion's my opinion. That's what's so great about life. If everyone was exactly the same, it would be so boring. Everyone's completely different, so that opens up the opportunity for us to have really rich interactions and really complex memories, and because everyone that you've met is so different that it's not just like, oh, well, we all sat around a room and looked at each other because we had nothing else to say. No, there's always something new to say, something new to learn, someone new to meet. And that's the great part of, being alive today, is there's so many different people. Everyone's encouraged to have their own voice and be their own person. And everyone's different life experiences really lend to that. It kind of reminds me of that, like, psychology, anecdote, parable, just where, like, an alcoholic man raised two sons, and one son never touched a drop of alcohol in his life because he saw what it did to his father and how that affected their relationship with each other, and he never wanted to do that. He never wanted to be that. So he learned from his father's mistakes. Whereas the other son was an alcoholic and a drug addict because he learned at his father's knee, And that also kind of goes hand in hand with nature versus nurture. Those two boys have the same genetics because they have the same mother and father. They were nurtured exactly the same. They were both raised by this alcoholic, and they still wound up completely different. And we're gonna deep dive into things like that together. Originally this idea started out of a need for a creative outlet because, even if you really love your job, if it's not fulfilling all of you, you need an outlet. And while I work for a great company, it's just not fulfilling the whole of me. And really, no one thing is going to do that because we are multifaceted human beings. So if you ever feel like, you're not getting enough from your job, just try picking up a hobby. Try doing something that's 120% just for you. And it's just self-indulgent, and see if that helps balance out everything else. Like I said, there's no way that you're going to be 100% fulfilled by one thing 100% of the time. Human beings, we're too mercurial for that. Things are constantly shifting in us. So it just makes sense to have multiple things that you can turn to, like some people, for them, music can either make or break their mood. I'm a person as a Cancer who I definitely have a playlist that when I'm sad and I just want to cross that threshold into, we're going to cry this out, I have a playlist for that. I have a playlist for, I'm kind of feeling moody and I don't want to feel super happy or super sad. I just want to kind of like let this work it out on its own. I've got a playlist for that. Same with activities. I've got like a rainy movie day kind of feel activity set up, or, I'm just going to write for a couple hours, just get it out there. Otherwise I'm just going to put on Queen and ABBA, like a playlist of those two, and I'm just going to dance this out kind of happiness. Like, everyone's got their thing. You just have to find your thing. And if you don't have your thing, then that is my assignment for you. Find something that's 100% in self-indulgent. Reading fan fiction, reading a genre that you've never read before, watching a show you would never usually watch, trying food that you've always thought like, oh, well, that's just too silly, or that's too much, or that's too rich. Try it. Try that thing. 2018 is about self-discovery and self-growth, and you can't do those things if you are forever stuck in a rut. And that's another thing. People will feel burnt out so much faster if they're in a rut. You've got to constantly try new things. And that's not saying that I'm going to make you jump out of an airplane or anything. No, just try something new. Start small and build your way up. The key to trying new things is, you try it once, twice if you like it, 3 times to be sure. That way, if you try it once or twice, you've given it an honest shot. You can't just try it once and be like, all right, well, I did it and I hated it, so I'm never going to do it again. Try it a couple times because, your mood can even affect whether you like something or not. So you really want to give it an honest try so that you're honest with yourself as well. So that is something that you can kind of look forward to during our time together. A mix of advice, of self-indulgent talk, of the occasional guest interview, feminism, women helping women, women supporting women, some adult chit-chat, tales from married life, tales from my mom life, tales from the past. Because I always feel, like I said, you are an accumulation of the experiences you've been through. And sometimes I feel like a great way to get to know someone is to have them tell you their favorite story to tell from their past. Then you can really, experience them and what they feel is their element. It's obviously one of their favorite stories to tell, so they'll tell you something about them. And really, you can learn something about yourself in other people's stories. So yeah, 2 assignments for you all. 1, try something new before our next time together and tweet me about it. Again, at T and Turquoise, also on Instagram under the same handle. And 2, your next assignment is to get to know someone else by asking them their favorite story to tell others. And it can be someone that you kind of know. It can be someone you know really well. It can be anyone. Just learn a story you haven't heard before from someone that you know or someone you don't know. Bonus points if it's someone you don't know, and that's how you're getting to know them. Another quick fact about me is I am very much like, I write like stream of consciousness. I talk stream of consciousness, so I will edit stream of consciousness. It's all part of the ride. You gotta start from the beginning and write it through the end, and we'll get there to the end, and it'll make sense then. But like I said, we're learning together. I'm learning how to create and produce this podcast, and you're learning firsthand how we're doing it. So thanks for kind of coming along and tuning in for this first episode.